Thanks, Derek. With a possible debt limit deadline now just about 2 weeks away or so, President Biden is set to meet with congressional leaders this week to defuse this looming crisis. Both sides saying they're trying to avoid a first ever national default. But a deal remains elusive. And do you care? Fox's Doug Luzader joins us live from Washington, D.C. with more. Doug, we ran a story earlier showing that a lot of Americans don't know what it means and kind of don't care at this point. But we should, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the markets at this point, have kind of been shrugging this off in recent days, too. Even though it could have a big impact on the economy, I think there's just kind of an assumption that they will reach a deal. The president himself sounded kind of optimistic over the weekend.
Mr. President, when is the debt meeting, the leaders?
In about 10 minutes.
A joke from President Biden as he biked near his beach house this weekend, but behind the levity, serious warnings from White House officials as the U.S. has reached its borrowing limit.
Defaulting on our debt isn't only about financial markets, it's about paying our Social Security recipients, it's about paying our troops, it's about paying the men and women who are working the border today.
Congressional leaders from both parties did meet with the president last week, with Biden pushing for Congress to raise the nation's $31.4 trillion borrowing limit without conditions. Republicans, though, are trying to rein in spending so we don't have to keep raising the limit so frequently.
The solution is not just massive borrowing and massive spending. That's no solution. That's putting your head in the sand, and that's actually going to lead us to a much greater crisis down the road.
The markets may start to get jittery as we near a deadline that the Treasury Department acknowledges is uncertain. But this could all come to a head as early as June 1st.
I remain optimistic because I'm a congenital optimist. But I really think there's a desire on their part as well as ours to reach agreement. I think we'll be able to do it.
And we will see what comes out of this meeting tomorrow, assuming that meeting happens. They were supposed to meet toward the end of last week, and they ended up calling that off, and that was actually seen, Dina, as a positive sign because it was an indication that the talks behind the scenes might have been close to a deal, producing a deal. We don't know how close they are right now, but both sides want to avoid a default just because of everything it would bring with it.
And Doug, so to simplify what the sticking points are on either side, and we know it's about spending, cut spending, this side says we need to spend this much money, this side says, but are there specifics that we can see sort of the light at the end of the tunnel here?
Well, this is like if you call your credit card company because you're right up against your limit and you're asking them to raise the limit. And the credit card company says, well, okay, but you've got to cut back on your expenses or we're not going to keep raising this. That's kind of the situation that we have in play here. At this point, as we keep saying, it just may be a matter of finding some kind of face-saving measure where Republicans can walk away saying that they got something from the president in terms of spending cuts, and the president wants to make it clear, no doubt, that he kind of held the line and got Congress to, in his words, do its job to raise the debt ceiling. But, they're getting close to the deadline here. Even though it's not a firm deadline, we know that it could come as soon as about 2 weeks from now.
Good. We're tired of talking about it, I think. I can speak for both of us, Doug, in saying that.
Yep. It's true. And, this is one of those things that comes up periodically.
Yeah.
Every time it's a little bit of a crisis, but they resolve it before it really comes to a head. Maybe that'll happen this time as well.
All right. Doug Luzader, thank you.